how important is Champions League football for the Newcastle United project? I think, look, first of all, they are ahead of schedule. It's been an amazing season for them so far. And that next step, next season, is going to be really interesting, both in the league and having to deal with that and, of course, European football. But it would allow them to spend that little bit more money, bring in more players. Of course, they've got that unlimited wealth, but fitting it within FFP is going to be important. And trying to maybe sort of a bit like Leicester City when they got into the Champions League, kind of have a bit of fun there and ruffle some feathers as well when it comes to it. It's obviously a very exciting time for them. The big thing, I think, to start with, to sort of give them their flowers, I think, what have you been impressed with most of all when it comes to Newcastle? I think the obvious place to start is that defence. They've been absolutely amazing. 13 clean sheets so far this season. You still got to play them, Pippa. That's the game that you're worried about because they've been so good at home, haven't they? They've been amazing this season.
And they've been good away too.
Yeah.
Some good away against us.
Yeah, the defence here, I think the big thing, when it comes to them in the Champions League next year, if we, for a second, think about that squad and sticking with that squad, because we're going to talk about possible summer signings, and also I want to talk about a couple of the players that have done well but might need to get moved along just because of the ruthless nature of trying to sort of be the best. But starting off with that defence, 55% of aerial duels won this season. Sven Botman's averaging 3.4 clearances per 90. He's also winning 2.1 aerial duels per 90 as well. Success rate of 66%. The big thing with them, defensively, is it about that sort of size, physicality and organisation? And do you think with higher expectations next year and having to break down a team, being sort of quick, getting the ball forward quickly, is that not going to work at that next level? Or is there a higher level than the Premier League?
I feel like they've already kind of bridged that gap a little bit this season. In the first 18 games of the season, they were very solid defensively, tried to play on the counter. In the last sort of 7 or 8 games, they've started to get the ball into Fabian Schär, who's very good in possession.
Scored goals in the last few games, haven't they? West Ham.
And they've started playing a bit more direct. And I think that obviously helps because they've got more of a dynamic forward who will come to. I think with Wilson specialises in sort of playing on the shoulder, so you can wait and then set him off, whereas now they can punch it into Isak and play off him. So I think they've actually become a little bit more dynamic as the season's gone on, but that's also why they've shipped a few more goals as well. I'd imagine going into next season, with more teams going, St James's Park, going to be horrible, sit back, 10 men behind the ball, play on the counter, they're going to have to find different types of solutions. I actually think it's the midfield where they'll have to get a little bit more dynamic. They've got a very dogged midfield, works hard, puts a shift in, has a couple of moments here and there. I think they'll need a bit more quality in that area of the pitch for next season.
Yeah. I think so. Let's talk about some of those players that maybe don't get enough credit and then say why they should be sold. It feels harsh, doesn't it? But then we'll talk about those summer signings. That's the exciting bit, isn't it? I think of the clan that was there that haven't kind of been signed, there's a lot of players there that have sort of been able to elevate their game through the development, I think, of Eddie Howe, and that's always a big thing that he sort of preaches. Joe Linton is obviously the first one we've kind of got to talk about. Do you think that he has the ability... What's happening here?
No, just Joe Linton. I just have another Joe Linton thing in my head.
Right. So well, go on then. So are you not a Joe Linton fan?
No,
When we talk about that midfield and changing it, he
He's
has
more
quality and
now.
he's shown quality, possibly down to that confidence that he's been able to build over the last year or so. But do you think in a tougher period, Joe Linton is up to scratch?
He sort of really teeters on the line of a player that I can be convinced by. But I'm not sure if next season, when they want to go to the next level in the Champions League, whether he's the player you start in your midfield three every week. But equally, Newcastle fans will definitely argue that because they love him.
And
I think, if you think about even United or Liverpool or the other sides, aside from City, even Arsenal to an extent, they all have that utility man in midfield. And so Joe Linton could potentially play that role.
Do you think he is his best position is, kind of out and out box to box on that left hand side? So I'm not actually sure he has that utility in terms of what he provides in terms of output. So 5 goals a season, averaging 3.6 tackles and interceptions per 90. So he's kind of offering a lot as a box to box midfielder, but I think he's only that. I don't think you're not going to play him up front. They have played him out wide on the left at times, but again, if you're wanting to break down the opposition and strengthen, you're probably not going to be using him in that position.
So are you keen on letting him go when they're trying to rebuild?
I think there's a few hits. So the one blanket statement that you can make on all these 3 players that we've got here. So Joe Linton, Jacob Murphy, I think you chuck Almiron in there as well. Joe Willock. All of those are future squad players, I think. I don't think they've got 3-4 seasons as starters for Newcastle with where they're heading. That is just
harsh world of football.
In the harsh world of football.
Groundwork,
I agree.
Get the team up to third.
And they leave as legends. I think they do. But I do think there is line there. But I do think there's also, you need sometimes players who are happy to come in and they'll give absolutely everything. Jacob Murphy has been so useful in terms of, a couple of bangers recently. The shock in his face is there for all to see. He's obviously not a Champions League player in terms of breaking down the opposition, going past players, but he'll kind of do a job for you to facilitate someone like Kieran Trippier, who's been absolutely fantastic this season. So he could stick around as a squad player. Maybe someone with a bit of a higher ceiling, Joe Willock.
Yeah.
What do you think about Joe Willock? Were you disappointed that he left Arsenal? And
I actually was, because I feel like he wasn't given
to
a proper chance. Yeah, we saw him have a couple of games, 5 games here, 6 games there, but it wasn't enough under Emery. And when he moved, I was a bit disappointed when they said, I know I shouldn't put other players down and pin against him, but when they said Sambi Lukonga will be a better replacement for Joe Willock. From what I've seen from Joe Willock, he's really come into himself the last 2 seasons. His last season at Newcastle, considering the amount of game time he had, was okay. This season, he's going to level up. He's added more goals to his game. The assist the other day was the assist of the season.
Oh, it's filthy.
Honestly,
so good.
He's improving every season with the more games he plays. So yeah, maybe a future squad player, but I feel like his ceiling's a lot higher than that. And it always has been. He's always been that guy from academy football, from Hale End football. And we haven't seen that prospect yet. But he's getting there.
Yeah. The thing is, though, if you could upgrade him, I think they would. Yeah. So if I gave them Maddison right now 15 goal contributions this season, they'd probably swap him out. And then Willock becomes the backup midfielder for all 3.
Yeah. Or does Willock become Joe Linton? Do you know what I mean?
Play box to box.
Then comes down to one of those two's got to make way, because you can't have both water carriers.
But then, to be fair, they've got Longstaff as well, who I think probably will end up going somewhere else. Although he's a Geordie and they love him there. This is the problem. I think they've actually got a lot of attachment with quite a few of these players.
I don't even think it's maybe about the football contribution for some of these guys. I think it might even be, who do we want to kind of retain the right energy? That's why, like Dan Burn, I think, although he's brilliant, has been brilliant, even if you get better players in, you will try and give him 20, 25 games a season to have that kind of continuity of feel, if you know what I mean. Say like Carragher at Liverpool, you wanted a couple of those Scousers in there. I think that's going to be a big part.
Carragher was actually
really good. Yeah, fair play.
It depends where their goals are. If Newcastle want to win the league in the next 2 seasons, I don't know if you would continue to have Dan Burn. No disrespect to him.
What, the legend Dan Burn? That scored a bang a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's probably life-size, isn't it? So let's talk about 3 possible summer signings. James Maddison, you alluded to there. I think that's the idea of a bit of... Yes, Pippa?
We already know who's coming to Newcastle.
Do we?
I mean, if this is...
He has been flirting
if this is true, I believe that the premise was, if Newcastle qualify for Champions League, because of the link between Newcastle and Al Nassr, Ronaldo's coming to Newcastle.
That was a twist and a half.
Wow.
If you've watched Ronaldo the last few games,
you would have won him. You would have won him.
Really?
But yeah, I heard that was, because he wants to get back into Champions League football.
But the thing,
and the Premier League. So
that is a different video.
Sorry.
They've done everything right up until now. If they're going to get Ronaldo, they've
just steps back. Right off the back of us talking about the heart and soul of Dan Burn and Longstaff.
But I remember that was a stipulation in the contract.
Oh, right. So. Well, Maddison, I think, look, when you're looking to bring in a bit of stardust, Maddison... I love this second shot of James Ward-Prowse. I think everyone should be after James Ward-Prowse. I think he's so good. And again, it's not the sexy element of it, but free kicks, corners, those things matter. And being able to put... I know you've got Kieran Trippier there as well, so maybe it's a bit congested in terms of that role. And actually, I'm talking myself out of it a little bit now. But James Ward-Prowse, just generally in terms of ticking it over, is, I think, of use and has got a goal in him. Last one, Kieran Tierney. Coming over from Arsenal. I mean, a player who a year ago you would have said, who are your first players on the team sheet? Yeah. Kieran Tierney would be one of those. And he's not really now. How would you feel if Kieran Tierney was poached by Newcastle?
Annoyed, but I could understand why, because literally he was one of the players for Arsenal just last season. One of the players that were irreplaceable. Fans were talking about giving him the armband. But now we're literally seeing him either on the bench or in the medical room. Well, more so on the bench now. And so a young player like that is going to need game time. And if he wants to stay at the top level, Newcastle will be a great move for him.
That does feel like a bit of a space on that left side.
Yeah, I think they will upgrade at left back 110%. They have got Matt Targett, who has not had a look in.
Dan Burn's just been too good there, isn't he?
Yeah. So, but then again, what's their ambition? Is Dan Burn to Tierney the level they want to go? Because there's definitely other left backs out there that they can reach out to. So, also, why are you getting rid of your left back? Like
I'm not. I don't want to get rid of him.
You have no squad depth
I
whatsoever.
don't want to get rid of him.
And I think the thing with Kieran Tierney time and again is, if you're not fit, you're not it. Like you're not of use if you.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, you need to be available. So I would always be wary of someone like Kieran Tierney because every single season it seems to do something. Right, guys, talk to us. When it comes to the ambitions of Newcastle, do you think Champions League football has come at the right time? Is there ever a bad time to get Champions League football? And secondly, in the summer, who should Newcastle be signing? Let us know.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.